Hi and welcome. So today I want to share with you how our digestion impacts our emotional eating and how when we sort of correct it, it can help us sort of minimize our emotional eating. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Michelle. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist and emotional eating expert. And I wanted to share this because I think sometimes when we are dealing with our emotional eating, and we've been trying sort of the typical things that are recommended to us, maybe the diets or, the exercise plans, or sometimes we do surgery. There's so much misconception around emotional eating as to what it truly is and what's really happening. And I'd love to share with you and say it's super simple and we should just know what to do, but it is a multi-layered issue. And my hope is that through these videos, you're sort of getting an idea of how all of these different pieces are coming together. And so one of the triggers to emotional eating is digestion. And it's something we don't often think about when we are on the latest diet or exercise plan or, doing all of these things. We don't think about our digestion very much. We don't think about our connection or relationship to food because when we're emotional eaters, we use food to soothe ourselves, to cope. And this pattern would have started when we were very young. And so we use food almost like a drug. Whenever uncomfortable emotions or stress comes up, we go towards the food, either consciously, we're sad and we need something, or just sort of in this unconscious sort of trance. And so food becomes this thing we have to control and we obsess over, and it's not just something we can just actually connect with and think about and feel into. And so I want to share with you more about how digestion impacts our emotional eating and even how our emotional eating impacts our digestion, just to give you sort of one layer of this. And so when I work with clients inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution program, the first layer that we look at is around true nourishment and strategic digestion. And in a way, this phase can be really triggering to a lot of clients because I'm telling them and giving them strategies around the way they eat. And so this is intentional to see where their triggers really are when they're using food to soothe. Because when we are eating foods let's say we're not able to eat foods that truly nourish our body, we don't know how to incorporate, just basic kind of foods and see how it feels in our body, and everyone's going to be different. If we have digestive issues after, we feel bloating, we feel heavy, that means our digestion's impaired. And we impact our digestion because then those nutrients are not going into our cells. And so what happens is our digestion is really connected to our mood. And it's not the be all and end all, but digestion is not just us eating foods. So diets would have you think if you eat X, Y, and Z and certain amount of calories and you just make sure you eat that at this time, you're good to go. But what it's not taking into account is how are you digesting that food? How does it feel in your body? And, we might be going through these diets and not feeling really great after we have certain meals, even if they're, let's say, healthy foods. And so this is where we have to go a little bit deeper. Digestion starts in the mouth. Digestion, we kind of think of this whole process as digestion, but what digestion is that we're intaking food, we're breaking it down into smaller and smaller pieces, and that food then needs to be broken down into such small pieces that it's able to be absorbed into our body and assimilated into our cells, and then we eliminate what we don't need. And so if we think about our digestive tract, it's external to our body. And if we're not breaking down foods and it's not digesting well and we're getting gas and bloating and feeling heavy and we're just feeling all of this, that means the food's not being broken down. And why is that important? Well, we need to get those nutrients into our body. But when food is sort of creating this gas and this bloating and digestion is not going really well, it impacts our digestive tract and our gut. And our gut actually holds a lot of bacteria. Our gut microbiome is there. And why is that important? Because a lot of our neurotransmitters are produced here. It's also known as the second brain. And so like serotonin, which is our happiness neurotransmitter. About 95% is produced in the gut. When we're eating foods that are not digesting well, or, even if they're healthy foods, but if we're emotional eaters eating those processed foods, we're actually creating more neurotoxins, not neurotransmitters. And so we're impacting our mood because our gut is connected to our brain via the vagus nerve. And so there's communication. And so if we're not producing those feel-good sort of chemicals, our mood is going to go down, and then it's going to impact us as an emotional eater, because then we're going to go towards the foods that we want to get sort of that high off of those processed foods. So certain foods we're going to sort of be triggered into eating them. And, that's going to impact our digestion as well, because we're usually triggered into wanting them when we're not truly hungry. And this is why it's important to have, a way of eating that's really specific for emotional eaters, because it's not that when we're hungry, we're actually hungry. We could be emotionally hungry or just triggered into wanting food, or, when we need to really connect in with our body, which is something we weren't taught. Like, what does true hunger look like? Am I triggered? When am I getting triggered? And learning all of these nuances. And so when I work with clients, we're looking at putting in nourishing foods and strategically seeing if they, putting in food strategically and eating in a way that's strategic to digestion. This is not eliminating taste or things feeling good in the body. It's just tweaking things so that they digest well. And then we start looking at, when are you truly hungry? And then we're making sure we're not restricting. So for instance, our stomach has stretch receptors. We need to eat a certain amount physically. We need to satisfy hunger on multiple levels. And, all of these things are important, because when we're eating well and we're nourishing our bodies and it's digesting well, and we're eating when we're truly hungry, that's going to help our digestion, which means it's going to help our mood. So we're not triggered into emotional eating because of eating in a certain way. And then when we are triggered into our emotional eating, we can really clearly see the pattern and see what's happening. Or we can see what foods are triggering us into it as well, even if they might be so-called health foods or trending health foods or whatever it is. We are each individual, and this is how we connect more and more to our body. We start noticing these physical cues. And so this is how we start shifting out of this diet mentality, when we realize that our body needs to be nourished. And this doesn't mean we're just going to give up and be at this certain place. We're doing all of these things of nourishing our body and optimizing our digestion and removing our emotional eating triggers so that we can create a space where we're truly connecting to our body and getting to our healthy. So I don't like to put a number on that or a timeline on that, but as you're doing these steps are the opposite of what you've been doing with the diets and the exercise and the restriction and the willpowering. And so all of those steps created the body you're in right now. And yeah, maybe for a certain amount of period, if you were to willpower for a month or two or a year to get into that certain body, you were able to sustain that and have the physical result. It's not sustainable. We need to do things in a different way. And I don't like to focus on weight loss or our body, but our body does shift and transform as we resolve this emotional eating pattern. But that takes time, because if we've been doing this for years and decades, we have damaged our bodies. We're starting off at minus. And so now we need to get to zero before we can go into the plus and sort of have that more elevated health and vibrancy. But along the way, we want to really feel at ease in our body and around food. That is our signpost that we're going in the right direction, and this is going to be sustainable and it's going to feel good in our body. So, our digestion plays this key role. And I want to share that when we're in an emotional eating binge and we're just grabbing these foods not out of true hunger, that impacts our digestion and our body as well, because we're eating foods when we're not truly hungry. So our digestive system isn't warmed up to digest these foods, which creates even more indigestion and digestive issues, which creates more of an impact in our gut and that connection to our brain, and lowers our mood. So as we're even spiraling and using these foods to get out of this mood, we're actually going deeper. And that's how we get into these shame spirals, because then we start feeling crappy in our body, and our thought mentally we feel crappy because we've given up, and we're in this, this spiral downwards. And so we need to have this step-by-step way of getting out of this. And so inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution program, this is the first phase of the program. There are 4 phases. The other 2 are body acceptance and emotional wellness. And the third is the 4th is lifestyle. But really the first 3 we really focus on. And so this is how we start shifting this pattern. I wanted to just touch in on digestion because I think that sometimes women think I have my eating down. I know exactly how I want to eat, but I just can't get a handle on this emotional eating, not realizing that maybe the way you eat, even though on the outside it might have the perfect macros and nutrients and all of that, is still impacting your digestion and your emotional eating patterns. And even the fact that you think you have the perfect way of eating, are you truly connecting to your body? Are you having that trust in your body and knowing what's really going to open it up to its healthy? So I hope this video has been helpful. So if what I'm saying is resonating with you and you're looking for more support, you're looking for sort of a multi-layered approach to your emotional eating that really looks at food, your body, and your emotions, because these 3 pieces are needed to truly resolve your emotional eating at the root, then I'd love to invite you to check out more about the Emotional Eating Evolution program. This is my step-by-step methodology with lots of support, guidance, coaching, meditations to help you move through this pattern so you can finally feel at ease, free, and confident in your body and around food. So I will leave the link below for that. If you have any questions, please let me know. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I look forward to sharing more with you, and I hope you have a great day.